Thank you, Aubrey. I would like to now recognize Senator John Edwards and invite him to come. He has been a tremendous supporter of rail, not just to Roanoke, but throughout the entire Commonwealth. And I would like to also recognize that he's been a huge reason that the Amtrak is here today. He was responsible for obtaining some of the original funding in the study that would bring it here, and has been a strong supporter through his position within the Senate for many years. In addition to that, he was a former member of the Roanoke City Council and elected to the Senate in 1995. He currently serves on the Transportation, Courts of Justice, and Privileges and Election Committee. We thank him for his service to the Commonwealth and for his continued support of passenger rail expansion in Virginia. Thank you.
What a beautiful October day! This is truly historic, and thank you all for being here for this terrific celebration. I'm delighted to be here with so many of my good friends at the federal level, the state level, and at the local level, and bringing the distinguished people from Richmond to be here as well. This has been truly a bipartisan and bi-regional project. It goes back many years. Back over 10 years ago, some of us were pushing a Trans-Dominion Express concept. Meredith Richards and Joan Foster and Shannon Valentine and others, just to name a few, have been pushing that. But nothing really happened up until 2009. And then Governor Kane started a brand new train out of Lynchburg, an Amtrak train going north to Boston. New passengers, guess what? There are now about 180,000 new passengers on that train going to Boston. It brings in money. It's not losing money for Amtrak, it's bringing in money for Amtrak. And yeah, that's worth an applause. That was in August of 2009. That's when all this really kind of got started with Governor Kane. And then I decided to hold a town meeting at the Link Museum in October of 2009. Kevin Page, who's here, was the COO of DRPT at the time, and he kindly agreed to come and do a PowerPoint presentation about what was going on. And the idea of the town meeting was the future of rail passenger in Western Virginia. That was the vision. Indeed, that was the vision of so many of us. How can we get going? And I recall vividly at that town meeting, we afterwards had a Q&A, and a lot of questions, a lot of very interested people. And somebody asked a very important question: what can we do to bring Amtrak to Roanoke in our region? What can we do? And Kevin said, why don't you start with a connector bus? My first reaction was, what? A connector bus? He said, yes, a connector bus. And that would mean that you could prove that there's a market for Amtrak in Roanoke and further west. We said, fine, we'll do it. So the following winter, with the new McDonald administration, I sat down with Kevin and Thelma Drake, the new director of the Department of Rail and Public Transportation, say, what about this connector bus idea? And it turns out that Amtrak has a program. They'd pay a third of the connector bus, the state would pay a third, and the locality would pay a third, $200,000 for Roanoke. Well, at the time, Roanoke didn't have the money, so I said, fine, I'll put in a budget amendment. And with the help of the McDonald administration, with Kevin and Thelma Drake, we got it through. $200,000 for a connector bus. And then in July, the connector bus got started, and I want to thank Carl Palmer, by the way, with Valley Metro, who was instrumental in getting that connector bus. Give Carl Palmer a round of applause. That's even better than God's boy. He's done tremendous work for us. And so we wondered how many people were going to take this connector bus at Civic Center to Amtrak in Lynchburg. We had no idea. 12, 15 a day, who knows? Guess what? It was packed the first day. The bus was packed that first day, and we now have over 50 passengers per day on the connector bus to Lynchburg. That got Amtrak's attention, and that's why Amtrak said, okay, we can come, but we're not there yet. And then we decided to move forward to find out what else needed to be done. So what we had to do is decide, what about the line between Roanoke and Lynchburg? Is it good enough? Well, actually, it wasn't good enough. And so the state did a study and decided we needed $100 million to improve the line between Roanoke and Lynchburg. And fortunately, the McDonnell administration was behind it. We passed the 2013 transportation package, which included $100 million, as already just mentioned, $100 million to improve the line between Roanoke and Lynchburg. And that was done with state money. And that was done as a result of the 2013 package. And I understand the last day before Governor McDonnell left office, he actually signed the contract to do that work. And of course, but then as we went down the line, what else needs to be done? A project like this is a big project, and it takes a lot of people, and it takes a lot of time. Every time you turn around, there's another problem. Well, in planning for this new station, the Federal Railway Administration said, you know, it's got to be a high platform. People said, we can't have a high platform. We can't do it engineeringly. They said, well, if you want Amtrak is coming, and we said, okay, we'll do it. And that cost another $10 million that hadn't been planned for. And the spur down the street. If you go down Williamson Road between Albemarle Avenue and the Walnut Street Bridge, there's a new spur that's been built just for the Amtrak train. $5 million. Where's that money coming from? And DRPT stepped up to the plate and provided the $10 million for the platform and the $5 million for the spur. Give the DRPT a round of applause. And finally, last winter, they had finished the spur, and they needed to start work here last February. And the contractor said, you know, we can't get it done in a year, in 8 months. It's going to take at least a year to get this done. And the governor, with some gentle urging on my part, said, no, you're going to get it done by October. And guess what? They did get it done by October by working on weekends and around the clock. And I understand at night sometimes they were down here working as well. So give the contractor a round of applause. They stepped up to the plate. I was delighted that well, it's taken 8 years to get from there to here, from 2009 to 2017. But I recall that in 1862, Abraham Lincoln had a vision. And that vision was to connect the country coast to coast with rail. It took 7 years to 1869, finally, when they nailed the golden spike at Promontory Summit in Utah to connect the nation coast to coast. Because Abraham Lincoln had a vision that this country could prosper if we had rail from coast to coast. And indeed, that's exactly what happened. Lincoln understood the old scripture, proverb that says, where there's no vision, the people perish. And the other side of that is, where there's vision, there is progress, and the people prosper. And that's what we tried to do, have a vision to bring rail passenger to all Southwest Virginia, and so we can have progress and, in turn, have prosperity. There's so many people that deserve to be thanked for this project, too many to name, but let me just point out 3 things. First, we had 3 governors. Governor Kane, who started the Lynchburg train, Governor McDonnell, who pushed the 2013 transportation package that included the funding for the capital project here, as well as the DRP, as well as his DRPT, and then the Governor McAuliffe, who has been persistent in pushing this project. Each of these 3 governors, Democrats and Republicans, have made it their mission to make sure that we have rail passenger here in Roanoke and in Southwest Virginia. The second group that we need to thank is DRPT. I mentioned Thelma Drake under Governor McDonnell, who did so much to help us. But Jennifer Mitchell also under the McAuliffe administration. Thank you, Jennifer, for all that you have done and your staff has done. And I want to thank, I mentioned Kevin Page, but also want to give a shout out to Jeremy Latimer. He's been the project manager for this project. And I tell you, every time I made a phone call to him, I got a return call and I got the answers I wanted. He was great. I'm sure he probably wished I wouldn't make so many phone calls to him, but he was delightful in providing the information that I really needed to make this project work. And Secretary Aubrey Lane, your leadership in the Secretary of Transportation has been par excellence. And the members of the Commonwealth Transportation Board, some of whom are here, Cord Rosen, William Fralin, Shannon Valentine is on the Commonwealth Transportation Board too. They have been done yeoman's work in making this project work. And of course, Norfolk Southern and their subcontractors getting the job done on time and on budget. In the city of Roanoke, let me say, we have had two mayors, Mayor Bowers and Mayor Lee, on this project. We've had 4 councils altogether. We've had 2 city managers. And I mentioned Carl Palmer with Valley Metro, but also I want to shout out to Sherman Stovall, the assistant city manager, who really was the guy in charge of the project for Roanoke City. Give Sherman a round of applause. And of course, Amtrak has been great to work with. They have their rules and regulations, but they saw and they realized we have a market in Southwest Virginia. And I want to thank them as well. And there's so many citizens who lobbied and spoke out for this project. But you know, we're not finished. Our vision is not over. Next stop is the New River Valley. We already have a station picked out, a location in Christiansburg. $350 million, the Commonwealth Transportation Board recommended, it's in the budget, to study the line between Roanoke and Christiansburg to find out what needs to be improved upon between here and Christiansburg. And we have an advocacy group, many of whom are here, NRV Rail 2020, and they are well organized, very prominent people who are actively leading the charge to bring Amtrak to the New River Valley. And the sooner the better. Give them a round of applause. Yeah. NRV Rail 2020, and all these people who are promoting that. You know, it does make a difference. You as citizens, all of us together, it does make a difference. This is a democracy. If you participate, it matters. If you don't participate, nothing happens. But when you get involved and advocate for a cause, you would be surprised what can be done. And give yourselves a round of applause for advocating for rail passengers in the Roanoke Valley. Today is a picture of our future, of what can be done, and what we can do together for ourselves and for our children to bring prosperity and progress to this valley. Thank you for being here. This is historic. Thank you all very, very much.
Thank you, Senator. I now want to take a moment to recognize our partnership with Amtrak, without which none of this would be a reality. We are very thankful to Amtrak for their commitment to expanding transportation options in the state. They have continued to work hard to ensure safe and reliable rail service to Americans, and we are so grateful for their partnership. Amtrak's commitment to safety, on-time performance, and customer service is worthy of respect. And we look forward to continuing our work with Amtrak to continue expanding rail in the future. I want to now introduce Joe McHugh, who's working